So this is my MacBook, and as you can see on this side, it clearly thinks I'm in New York. And on this side, it clearly thinks I'm in the UK. You're probably thinking you just got some VPN on. Well, that's incorrect. As you can see here, all of my VPNs, well, they're turned off. It's not a VPN. So we're going to jump into how I did this. And it's not what you think. This is some clever technique. And it works not only here, but across every device on your network. So why? You're probably asking, why do we need to do this? Here in the UK recently, they came out with the Online Safety Act, and that's limited my ability to use the web. Services like Reddit or Spotify now implement age restrictions, and sometimes I want to bypass them. But I need certain content like Netflix or BBC iPlayer to think I live in the UK. So we can do that with this technique. And by the end of this video, you're going to know how to do it and how to set it all up. So let's jump into it. To be able to achieve this, we need to do 3 steps. Step 1, filter by the website. We need to know which website you're going to, and then we're going to have to do step 2, which is navigate the traffic, e.g. send certain traffic to that country or to that country, depending on where you want to look at geographically. And step 3 is making it available house-wide. So you might be familiar with something known as a VPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. This is essentially a tunnel between you and your VPN server. So this is how a VPN works. So you've got your phone here and say you want to go to example.com. Essentially, your phone routes all its traffic down this VPN tunnel to the VPN server, which then it comes out of to go to the website, and vice versa to go all the way back to the phone. You probably do this through something like a mobile app, but the good thing is we're not going to need a mobile app, but we are going to need your VPN subscription that you're already paying for. I'm sure at some point in your lifetime you've been into the Wi-Fi settings on your computer and you've clicked on details. Have you ever noticed this thing about proxies where it says proxy here? What's a proxy? That's a very good question you might ask. So to explain what a proxy is, we're going to have to explain how the web works. So have you ever been to a website and gone to HTTP or HTTPS? That stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It's the way websites communicate on the web, and they have a very clever design built into them. So similar to how a VPN works, you can have a proxy, the only difference being that the iPhone only sends HTTP traffic down there. It only sends web packets, like websites like Reddit or example.com, whatever it might be. They're the only things that go down this proxy. And of course, they still come out of the proxy and go to the website. Okay, so this is what we're going to be using. We're going to be using a proxy. The good thing is, if you're paying for an existing VPN server, like NordVPN, they have proxy servers that you can use. But the wise ones about you will have noticed I haven't got any proxy settings configured. That's because I'm using auto discovery. We'll get onto that later. So there are lots of ways to set up a proxy. You can manually enter the IP address and the port and the required username and password. That is number 1. So say I entered 10.0.1.2.91.91 and my username and password. That would send all of the traffic to that proxy. But above there, you'll notice there's this option to do automatic configuration. This wants a proxy configuration file URL. If your network administrator has provided you with an address of an automatic proxy config or PAC file, enter it above. What's a PAC file? This is where I got thinking. I thought, how can I use a PAC file to proactively switch which websites go to where? So I found this Mozilla article, which is talking about a Proxy Auto-Config PAC file. Essentially it's saying that a PAC file is a JavaScript, this is a coding language, function to determine whether web browsing requests, HTTP, HTTPS or FTP, go directly to their destination or forwarded through a web proxy service. Okay, now we're talking. So we can choose if we're going to go through this proxy or if we're going to go direct. Okay, a PAC file, well, it appears that it has a standard format of find proxy for URL, where we're going to get in the URL and the host. Okay. These are things we're going to need. So very quickly, off camera, I've written up a PAC file. This is very simple. Let me explain. So we've got this find URL parameter. This is what we need as an entry point to our file. We're going to take in a URL and a host. This is where you're going on the web. Then I've defined this forwarding proxy. This is where I want the traffic to be proxied to. In this case, it's my local server at 10.0.1.2 and the port. You might choose to use your NordVPN or your other provided proxy system. Go check those documentations out for what you need to put in here. It'll be proxy followed by the name, followed by the port. And then down below that, we've got proxy pattern. Using the wildcard, which is this asterisk at example.com, I'm basically saying anything.example.com or example.com will be routed through my forwarding proxy. And then this just routes it through the forwarding proxy. It checks if the host name matches this, it routes it forward by sending proxy and then that back. Otherwise, we send all traffic direct. Of course, you could say to use a different proxy, but that's beyond the scope of this. Well, that solves problem number one. We can filter by website. We've not actually implemented it, but this will filter by website. How do we implement? Okay, well, what was the thing we needed? So in order to be able to configure this, it needs a URL. We haven't got a URL, we've just got a file. So we need to host this file somewhere. There are lots of options for how you could do this. You could spin this and stick it on your own web server if you've got one. What I'm gonna suggest is you put it on something like GitHub. GitHub has this great option called Gits. Well, these are essentially just files that you've put on GitHub to like share with people. So if we go in here, we can paste our code in here. So I've copied all my code from there and I've pasted it in there. I'm just gonna call this proxy.pac. And then you can choose whether you want it to be a secret or public. It depends if you want to share it with people. I'm just gonna go with secret. It's still accessible directly via the URL. Create. So that's created this. I can then click this raw button here. We click that and you can see the code. If we then copy the URL from the top and paste it in here, you'll notice that works. Okay, perfect. So in whatsmyip.com, it currently thinks I live in the UK, the United Kingdom for Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That would be correct. Now we're going to put this file in. So we're going to paste that URL in the URL proxy configuration and click OK. Now, if I refresh the page, it now thinks that I live in the United States of America, in New York. That's because my proxy, well, that's in New York. And that's basically as simple as it gets. If you want to then edit your config to say add example2.com, you can just click the edit button back on GitHub and change that and still use the same URL. That's simple, but we've got one more step. So my third promise to you was it's going to be house-wide, and to do that, we need to take advantage of a different service you might have heard of called DHCP. DHCP, or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, allows you to dynamically configure your computer over the network. You're probably thinking, I don't know how to set this up. I don't want to set this up. You don't have to. It already exists on your network. On your Wi-Fi, there is already a service doing this. It comes pretty much as standard. It gives you the IP address that you get from your router. So you can always put this in here on any computer and that will work, but we're gonna use auto discovery. So I'm gonna turn that off and turn on auto discovery. The following might vary depending on what service you're using, but I'm using Unify, so I'm gonna go to their Unify Cloud Key. So I've gone into Unify and I've found my main network. This is the main network that this computer's on. And I've scrolled all the way down. You'll notice there's an option called WPAD URL. This took me a moment to find, so I'm sharing it with you. This is the URL for the Web Proxy Auto Discovery, or WPAD. That's what we want. We want to auto discover the proxy over the web. So if you tick the box and then paste in your URL to your PAC file, in this case it's slightly different because I'm using a locally hosted one. I'm not using that one on GitHub, but you might use your one on GitHub or wherever you've hosted your PAC file. Click save and save that and wait for that to propagate. You might then need to turn the Wi-Fi off on your device and turn it back on, but that is it. As simply as that, that configuration that you put in here for the automatic proxy URL will have been distributed over your network to every single device. Some of them might take longer to get it and some of them might not get it. You just need to make sure they have auto proxy discovery turned on. And like that, you've distributed the proxy. So now every website in the house thinks it's in whatever country you want it to think based on the content you're looking at. Of course, some configuration is required. You need to pick the URLs you want and where you want them to be distributed. You're not limited to one proxy in that file. You could use different ones. Say you want to be in the US and then you want to be in Italy or the UK or Australia. Wherever you want to be, you can configure it. And that kind of wraps this one up. We've covered all 3 points, so I hope you found this one interesting. If you have, maybe hit that subscribe button. It really makes a difference. I'm nearly at 2,000 subscribers. So how exciting. And if you have enjoyed it, hit that like button as well. That also helps. Tells the algorithm to show it to more people. I would be interested to know if you're doing anything differently. Is there a way I've not thought about that you're using? But until then, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.